Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. Welcome to our pantry. I am so happy to have you here with us today, where we are going to give you a complete tour of all of our food storage places. Where we are right now is in our canning pantry. This is where we store all of my canning, obviously. And then in behind me here is what we call our store pantry, and that's where we store primarily our store-bought goods. And then we have a new addition to our food storage areas this year, and we're calling it the warehouse. So we're going to take you over there once we're done in here. And we're going to round out the video in our freeze dryer room, where we're going to show you all of our freeze dried stuff. And I have something very exciting to share with you. Our channel is just about to hit 200,000 subscribers, and I am so grateful to each and every one of you who have subscribed to our channel and supported us by watching our videos. And as a way to thank you, we are putting together a gigantic giveaway. And the giveaway is going to start as soon as we crest that 200,000 mark. And one of the things that we're going to be giving away is a medium Harvest Right freeze dryer, which is just so exciting. We're going to be giving away electric canner. We're going to give away some Simply Merino clothing, some seeds, a signed cookbook, all kinds of fun stuff. And if you would like to be notified when we start doing that giveaway, all you have to do is sign up for our email list down in the show notes below and in the pinned comment, and you'll get an email as soon as that giveaway starts. And I just can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. This pantry tour is going to be really fun and exciting. We canned over 1,630 jars of preserves this year, and I tried so many new fun recipes. We did lots of meals in jars, all kinds of things that we haven't done before, and I can't wait to show them all to you. If you would like to see the progression of our pantries from when we first started, when we first bought our ranch just about 9 years ago now, I'll put a playlist for you down in the show notes, and you can watch the whole thing from the very beginning. But my husband, Dan, who's behind the camera right now, built this pantry, and he built it with almost entirely recycled materials, and it only cost this pantry here around 500 Canadian dollars. That was, to be fair, probably about 6 years ago, so it would be more expensive now. But all this beautiful wood on these shelves is repurposed wood. It was reclaimed from a cattle sorting arena that we had out on our ranch that was falling down. So Dan just ran all this wood through the planer and stained it all, and it looks absolutely beautiful. The ceiling he got from just an old building. It was an old chunk of metal roofing, and I just think it looks absolutely beautiful. And this year he put in the flooring that you can see here. This used to have concrete, painted concrete on the floor, and he put in this plank flooring. And what I love about it is the whole feeling that I wanted in this pantry was kind of like a 1920s mercantile. And I feel like this big plank wood flooring here looks just fantastic and kind of goes with that whole theme. So without further ado, let's get right into the pantry tour. I think that I want to start on this shelf here, because this is kind of the fun new stuff that I canned this year, some of it anyway. Does that sound like a good idea?
Sure.
Okay. In the early part of the season, before canning season really kicked in, I decided to try my hand at some small batch canning. Usually I do bulk canning, but I did some small batch canning. And if you would like to see a playlist of all of the things that I canned, or most of the things that I canned this year, I will put that down in the show notes and you can go and check that out. But in the early part of the season, I did a whole bunch of jellies and jams. So I wanted to show some of those to you first. One of my favorite new ones, and this one really surprised me, is this orange mango mint jelly. Isn't that a gorgeous color? And the flavor of this, if you like marmalade, you would like this one, is absolutely delicious. I did an apple pepper jam. Look at how beautiful that looks. Really, really tasty on crackers with cheese. We have cranberry sauce, which I do every year. Super easy to make this. You just cook it down with some sugar, a little bit of orange juice. Sometimes I add a little bit of cinnamon to it. So good. We did a citrus cantaloupe butter, which also sounds like it wouldn't be very good, but is also really delicious. This one is probably my all-time favorite pepper jelly. This is a red pepper jelly that was actually one of my best friends in elementary school's mom's recipe that I just tracked down this summer and made it. It was so nostalgic to taste it. Absolutely delicious. We have some apple butter here, and I like to do my apple butter so it's a little bit chunky. It's really good. We have some rhubarb barbecue sauce. We have a ton of apple pie filling. I did not make nearly enough apple pie filling last year. We were finished it by, I think it was the end of December, so I canned way more this year. We have some blueberry syrups over here and some plain canned blueberries. So I did want to point out one thing, because this question always comes up when I share my canning, and that's that you will notice that I don't have any rings on any of my lids. These lids are actually held down by a vacuum that happens during the canning process. And when you keep the rings on your lids when they are put into storage, it can give you something called a false seal. That means it can look like it's sealed, and even the top can be concaved a little bit. But when you go take the ring off, that lid pops off and the food inside is no good. So what this allows me to do is, before I bring my jars down to the pantry, I just give the lids a little tug, and I know that they are sealed well. So that's the reason why you won't see any rings on here. So on this next row, this is another new thing that I did. I bought myself a steam juicer this year, and they're not that expensive and they work absolutely fabulously. The only thing I will say about them is that the juice is a little less concentrated than it is through other juicing methods, but it's still great. So we have a bunch of apple juice here. We have some applesauce over here, and then this is sour cherry pie filling. These cherries are from our very own cherry trees, which is exciting because we planted our orchard. We call it a forest garden. It's a permaculture food forest. We planted it almost 7 years ago now, and it's starting to produce for us every summer in abundance. So to be able to can cherries from my own cherry tree was the best feeling ever. Over here we have some strawberry rhubarb jam and some strawberry pie filling. Over here we have some more of the fun jellies that I did. We have a lilac jelly here. Look at the color of that. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? So it definitely has a floral flavor to it. It's more of a kind of an exotic flavored jelly. My kids aren't crazy fans of it, but I think it's really good. This one is probably the favorite new one. This one is called carrot cake jam. Look at how beautiful that looks. It tastes like carrot cake. It's really good. It's quite sweet though, I will say that. And I grew what I thought were choke cherries. When I first planted the plant, I knew it was an aronia bush. But as the years passed, I forgot that it was aronia, and it looks very similar to a choke cherry. So I called it a choke cherry all summer until one of you pointed out that you thought it was an aronia bush. And then I remembered that I had actually planted an aronia bush. So this is aronia jelly that I made out of the aronia berries. And it was the first year that I'd been able to harvest off of it. And this jelly is delicious. And then we have some plum jam over here, and I was so happy because I didn't get any plums off my plum trees this year, and I also didn't get any plums. We didn't have a lot of stone fruit in British Columbia, that's where we're from, this year, but one of my friends was able to get some plums for me, so I did put together some plum jam, which is one of my favorite kinds of jam. Up here we have tons and tons of peaches. Like I said, BC had a stone fruit, basically a disaster this year when there was a frost at some point during the growing season, or a freeze that killed all the stone fruit. So all the peaches that you see here were actually imported up from Georgia, and I was able to get these much earlier than we normally have peaches in our area. So I canned a ton of them because they had a really good deal on them, and they were probably the best peaches I have ever had in my life. They were amazing. And then there were a few things that I had enough left over from last year that I didn't have to can this year. And the salsa up here, along with the piccalilli relish, were some of the things that we carried over from last year, which was great because canning salsa can be quite time consuming just with all the chopping and the dicing. So we have all of our regular salsa here. The peach salsa up here, which I did do fresh this year with those gorgeous Georgia peaches. The piccalilli relish. This is a delicious relish, but I definitely made too much of it last year because we still have lots and lots of jars of piccalilli relish here. We have a green tomato salsa. I used up some of the green tomatoes. I didn't have a ton of green tomatoes this year, which was really nice. Most of our tomatoes actually ripened on the vine, but I did have a few, so we have some green tomato salsa and then some just plain kidney beans up over here. And then down here at the bottom of the shelf, I have always been more of what I would call an ingredient canner. And then I would use all these ingredients to make soup. But we are really, really busy this year, so I thought having some convenience meals on the shelves would be awesome. And friends, it has been the best thing ever, and I plan to do it again next year. So I did a whole bunch of different things this year. I did a vegetable soup, a beef stew, a bean soup, and this might not look very good, but it tastes delicious. We have a pea soup, some chili over here. Down here we have turkey soup, beef soup, and pork and beans. And then we have a whole bunch of turkey stock. When we butchered our turkeys this year, what I usually do is I take the entire carcass and I put it into a big, gigantic pot. And then I boil that for around 24 hours and can up that, and it makes the best soup stock ever. Beside that, we have just some plain meat. So I love to can plain meat. We have ground beef down here, pork, turkey, chicken. All along the entire bottom of this is all kind of ingredient type canning, like the plain meats, the plain stocks, and things like that. This is, I just think, such a pretty part of the pantry because it's a lot of the pickled products, and because of the vinegar, the color of pickled products is really retained, and I just think it looks really beautiful. So we have up on the top shelf, these are just more ingredients. We have corn, green beans, and then all here is squash. And then we have some navy beans back over here. On the next shelf down, we have some beautiful bread and butter pickles here. We have some beautiful dill pickles here. Some lovely pickled asparagus. I love pickled asparagus on a piece of toast with some mayonnaise, some slices of cheese, and then the pickled asparagus on top. It tastes so, so good. And then back here, we have some sandwich pickles. These are delicious on a hamburger. And friends, is there anything more beautiful than a pickled beet? Even if you don't like beets, you have to appreciate how gorgeous they are with that beautiful deep purple color. We have our cinnamon pickled carrots, and I know cinnamon might sound like a weird flavor to put in with pickled carrots, but these are absolutely scrumptious. This is something that I have never canned before. These are pickled mushrooms, and as you can see, there's a lot of headspace. So headspace is the space between the top of your product and the top of the jar. And generally you want around 3/4 to an inch of headspace, so more like this much space. But I realized when I canned these, because I didn't cook the mushrooms first, which is what the recipe said to do, that they absorbed or something. I don't know exactly what happened, but absorbed a lot of the vinegar and I lost all of that headspace. So next time I make these, I'm going to cook the mushrooms first. But they look pretty, and Dan said these were absolutely delicious. We had them on pizza one day, and I think on sandwiches they would be really good as well. So that's one I'm going to do again for sure. We have some more just canned plain green beans here, and then these beautiful dilly beans with tons of garlic. There's some red pepper flakes in there and some beautiful heads of dill. Yum, yum. And over here, this entire section right here, along with down over here, is all pickled peppers. They're pickled peppers, and they're also canned with a lot of sugar. At least a lot of these are. A cowboy candy, if you might be familiar with hearing about cowboy candy. But these are the best things with cheese and crackers, on pizza, in sandwiches. What else do you eat these on? You eat these on a lot of different things. Everything. Salad. Salad. They're so good, which is why I have so very many of them here. So these ones are all jalapenos here. We have banana peppers over here. And I think it's interesting that these are both banana peppers. Maybe I added a little bit of turmeric to these. It kind of looks like I did, because those are much more orange looking. They're prettier, I think. So those are scrumptious and delicious. Then we have lots of relishes down over here. This is zucchini relish, and we have been making this relish for 24 years, I think. This is one that I make every single year. It's everyone's favorite relish.
It's the one you won the fall fair with.
Yes, it is.
And you're like 25 or something.
Yeah, exactly. We have a green chili sauce. This is also a new one that I have never made before. That's really good. And then we have, this is French onion soup, and I know it does not look very good, but it is absolutely delicious. I use this to make gravy. I dump it on a pot roast and roast it in with a pot roast. It is so good. And then of course, just as French onion soup as well. And then we have just plain potatoes all back over here. Over here we have our pickled slaws. My favorite way to pickle cabbage is with onions. Sometimes I'll put grated carrot in there, like in this one, and red peppers. And celery seed, a little bit of sugar. It's super delicious. I like having these on pork tacos. I even will drain it out and give it a little bit of a rinse off because it is very vinegary, and then make just like a typical coleslaw out of it, adding mayonnaise. And it's really, really good. And then we have a garlic sauce, and I can see I didn't write on here. So these little labels here are actually beadboard that Dan just cut into strips, and then we painted it with chalkboard paint. They've worked really well for being able to just have something easy to be able to change the names when we put in new canning in here every year. And they're just stuck on with double-sided tape, so we can move them around pretty easily. But I can see that, oh, I did write on it, but it got rubbed off. It's the one disadvantage of the chalk. And then we have a garlic curry sauce here, some canned salmon over here. We use this to add to salad, sometimes for making like a salmon melt sandwich. And then all of this is beef and pork. We have a few sauces back over here. Oh, why do we have tomato sauce back here? We're going to take you in the other pantry because I have an entire shelf of tomato products over in that pantry. But these ones, I guess we forgot to move over to the other side anyway.
I don't have room for them anyway.
Okay, so they can stay there. Yeah. So this is all tomato. We did a ton of tomato canning this year, just tons and tons and tons of it. So we actually converted some of the shelves in our store pantry into canning shelves, which we'll bring you over there in a second. But anyway, yes, that's all tomato sauce. And then on the bottom is just all broth, beans, and canned meat all along down here. When Dan first built this pantry for me, he built this as my, and I can never say this word right, apothecary. That's what it is, right? Yeah, I think that's how it is. Anyway, he built this for that purpose, so that I could do all my herbs here, make my tinctures and things like that. And I was just starting to get into medicinal herbs back then, but I have decided since then, I think I did it for a couple of years, that it's really not my area of interest, so I'll leave that to the experts. So this year I have gone through this entire thing, and this is all now culinary herbs and teas. So most of the herbs that you can see here that are in the jars are ones that I grew in my garden and I freeze-dried. Freeze-dried herbs are the best thing ever. Every time I open up a jar, it just smells like summer to me. So we have all kinds of stuff along here. We have more basil than any one person could need. I have whole basil leaves like this, and then I also have ground up basil leaves like this. And I did try to put the years on my labels. I have this little label maker that I bought several years ago from Staples, and it was not an expensive label maker, and this little thing just works so incredibly well. I just love it. So we have everything labeled here. So we have parsley. I don't have a ton. Oh, I do have more parsley here. Okay, I was wondering. That didn't look like as much parsley as I remember growing. But anyway, so this kale, I add this to my smoothies every single morning. I just add a tablespoon of it. So I ground up the leaves and then freeze dried them and then just made this powder out of them. And I just love this stuff. And then we have some chamomile that I freeze dried, and this we use it for tea, of course. We have mint, some peppers, some tomato powder. So this is kind of cool. With my tomatoes, I would always take the skins off and the seeds and then just give those to the chickens. But this year, somebody recommended that I freeze dry them and then turn them into tomato powder. So that's what I did. So we've been using this on popcorn. You can turn this into a tomato paste by just adding some water to it. It's great stuff. We have some powdered milk here. This is freeze-dried milk that I freeze-dried. Some cardamom, that's store-bought. Some calendula, fermented garlic in honey here. This is actually from last year that I have left over from last year. I haven't started a fresh batch for this year yet. Oh dear. Oh no. So Dan has been teasing me so bad about my poor labeling that I've done. And so as you can see, everything's labeled in here. And that is because I am finding the wisdom in making sure things are labeled, because what happens is I go put this in the jar and I think, I'll know what that is. But here's the thing, this looks the same as all of these other ones. So let's see if we can figure out what it actually is. Can you tell? What is it?
It smells good.
It does smell. It smells really good. It almost smells like oregano.
No, it's not basil.
Okay, so it's definitely not basil. I think it might be oregano. Oh, it is oregano. Yes, it is oregano. It smells so good. Okay, so I'm gonna just put this aside and make sure that I label it as oregano. We have some nutritional yeast here. This is of course store-bought. Tomato flakes, those are more of the freeze-dried tomato skins and seeds. We have chives here. We have mint and sage and dill, green onions, more basil, so much basil. And then those jars up at the top, I don't have labels either, but I do know what those ones are.
No comment.
So we have parsley, chives, tomatoes. So these are sun-dried tomatoes up here, basil, more basil, and more parsley up there, and then more tomato powder up here, and some more chamomile over there. And then we have a bunch of store-bought herbs here. And then I think that is about it for this shelf. So now we head over to our store pantry. This pantry we have always used for our store-bought items. We buy a lot of our food in bulk. We live quite a distance away from the nearest Costco or any other place that we can buy food in bulk. So we usually travel to the nearest Costco every 3 to 6 months and stock up. So this is where we store a lot of that food. But this year, because of the amount of canning I did, we needed to move some of that stuff out. So that's what's moved over to the warehouse, and have filled it with more canning. So this is almost all, actually it is all tomato products on this shelf. So up at the top, we have just plain diced tomatoes. We have sloppy Joe mix over here, which also is one of those things that does not look very good but tastes delicious. You can just open up a can of this, throw it in a pot, heat it up, and put it on a bun, and it makes a delicious sandwich. It also doesn't look very good. This is spaghetti sauce with meat in it, but also tastes really good. And then we have a spaghetti sauce without meat, so a vegetarian style spaghetti sauce. Enchilada sauce here. I have a super spicy enchilada sauce and a milder enchilada sauce. This is another one. I started making this enchilada sauce I think last year, and I made extra this year because we loved it so much. And then we have pizza sauce up the wazoo. This is all pizza sauce, and this entire shelf here is all pizza sauce. We make pizza here at least once every 2 weeks, and we usually make between 4 and 6 pizzas at a time. So we use a couple of jars every time we make pizza. So this should do us all the way until well into the spring. I know it looks like a lot, but we'll definitely go through all that. And this next shelf, I'm super excited about. This is a new product, which I obviously loved since I made an entire shelf's worth of it. And this is a chili base. So this doesn't have any ground meat in it or beans or anything. It's just the base sauce part of the chili. So with all the seasonings, onions, peppers, and a tomato sauce. And it makes the most delicious chili. In fact, in my last video, I showed making a chili with this. I made a vegetarian chili that time, but I could easily have added a can of ground beef to it, or fried up some ground beef if I wanted to, but it makes the best chili. So I made a lot of it because we do like chili. We eat chili at least every 2 weeks. Down on this shelf is something new that came to me as a suggestion from a subscriber, actually from quite a few subscribers. So when I was canning my tomatoes, I was taking off juice so that I could make thicker sauces, and I was just pitching the juice out. And people got quite distressed with me for doing that and said, why don't you just can it? Because then you can use it for bases for your stews or for making Mexican rice or anything like that. So I did. I canned up a ton of it, all of the juice basically from then forward. And I have been using this to make my beef stew, and it makes the most delicious beef stew ever. So I'll definitely be continuing to do that. And then we have a little bit of just plain tomato sauce over there. But yeah, I think we're definitely set for tomato products this year, that's for sure. Okay, so all of the stuff that you see here, excluding the honey up here, this is our own honey, is all store-bought bulk groceries, including back over here, except for what you can see up here, but we'll get to that in just a minute. And like I said, we do like to buy bulk. It is just super convenient for us just due to where we live. And so we have lots of different things here that we don't have to go to the grocery store every week and buy, which we also love. Okay, we have ketchup. And the ketchup is right next to the tomato products. And you may be asking yourself why I don't make ketchup. And the reason is quite simple. It's just very time consuming to cook down tomatoes enough to get tomato ketchup. So we do buy our tomato ketchup in bulk. The same thing with mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is one of those things that's fairly easy to make. And honestly, I think if it were just me, because I don't use a lot of mayonnaise, I would probably just make my own mayonnaise. But my family, including the guy behind the camera there, eats a lot of mayonnaise, and they prefer the store-bought. He prefers the store-bought mayonnaise, and so does the rest of my family. So we have lots of mayonnaise here. Mustard, Frank's Red Hot. I actually made my own fermented hot sauce this year that my kids actually really like, which is great, but I personally love Frank's. I would like to be able to get a recipe that's as good as Frank's hot sauce. If you have one, I would love to know if you wouldn't mind sharing it, because I just love the flavor of Frank's. We have some Bragg's liquid soy seasoning. We have sun-dried tomatoes, garlic stuffed olives. We have regular olives, or not regular olives. What are these? Black olives, which I think are disgusting, but Dan absolutely loves them. So we have a whole bunch of those. Actually, everyone in my house, except for myself and one of my daughters, loves these. So we have lots of these. We have apple cider vinegar here, balsamic, sesame oil, olive oil, lots and lots of coconut milk here. And then we also have a bunch of tomato paste. So for the same reason that I don't make ketchup, I also don't make tomato paste. Although I can make tomato paste now out of the skins and the seeds that I was showing you and talking about over there. But I'll probably always keep some on the shelves there. We have canned mushrooms, canned pineapple chunks, and this is for pizza nights too. We have a few cans of kidney beans because I ran out of dried kidney beans, I think about 4 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago or so, and I had just put in a bulk order for them, but they weren't here and I needed them for a recipe. So Dan bought me some jars of this, so we just have a couple of sitting here. We have some tuna and then a whole bunch of peanut butter. I actually don't mind this Kirkland brand of peanut butter. I think it's really good. So this one we get the smooth one, and then we have the Adams crunchy peanut butter here, which is good. The only thing I don't love about the Adams is just the amount of stirring that you have to do to get the oil in mixed into it, but it's good peanut butter. And then we have a bunch of coconut oil here. Most of what's here is all canning supplies. So we have tons of pickling salt here. We have some lemon juice and lots of vinegar over here. So this is all things I like to keep in bulk, because when I do canning, I usually do large batches of things, and I'm constantly, or I used to be anyways, before we stocked food like this, I'd be running out of things, and now I never do, which is fantastic. Down over here, we have some curing salt shoved back in over here. We have some bulk salt here as well, some bulk sugar, brown sugar, and then a whole bunch of rice down over here. Some quinoa, couscous, sticky rice, and then all of these are dried beans. These ones are kidney beans in the back. We have black beans. We have, these are wheat berries. I have not yet tried grinding my own wheat. I did get a wheat grinder. So, or a flour, is it called a wheat grinder, flour grinder? Anyways, for making your own flour. I haven't tried that yet, but that's something that I'd like to try this winter. So that's what that is for. A grain grinder, that's what it is. So this is something that Dan and I did together last week. These are all baking mixes. So we have muffins up here, breakfast cookies up here. This is a delicious recipe. We have pancake mix. Whoops. Okay, so I'm trying to get better at labeling, but I just realized, because I was like, I knew we made cobbler mix. This says pancake mix, but this should say cobbler mix. So we'll pretend it does. So we have cobbler, muffins, breakfast cookies, and pancake mix. And so far, I am loving having these on the pantry shelves. I plan to keep this area fully stocked with these because it's so convenient to be able to pull one of these off the shelf and make something really quickly. It only takes 5 minutes to put them together and pop them in the oven. Love having that. So the rest of the stuff that's on this shelf is mostly all baking things as well, although we have a few things like the chips and the cereal and the crackers on this shelf. But everything underneath are all cranberries that I use for baking, nuts. What do we have here? Oh, right. This was that daily fiber boost. There was all the flax meal in it that we used in these breakfast cookies. This was really good
You
stuff.
did have somebody ask you about that.
Yeah, I actually, this I thought was really good. And then we have some hemp hearts here. These were from Costco. So we have bulk baking soda down here. We have bulk cornstarch down here. And then this one over here is baking powder. So this whole shelf basically outside of this is all baking goods. Sugar, cocoa powder, what are these?
Chocolate chips.
Chocolate chips, wow. Icing, sugar, coconut, all of that. And then over here we have some more baking stuff too. So this is flour. We order our flour bulk from True Grain, which is a BC grown organic wheat. And I love this flour so much. So that's what this is. We have some popcorn. We have rolled oats, sugar, and a little bit of rice over there, and then a whole bunch of garlic here. And actually my neighbor brought me over all of this garlic. The garlic underneath is garlic I grew, but this is garlic that she grew. Lastly, in this room, we have all of our bulk pasta down at the bottom, and we buy this from the Wholesale Club, which is, what's another name for the Wholesale Club? They call it Wholesale Club here, but it's Superstore, I think.
Yeah, it's Canadian though.
Canadian Superstore?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
real Canadian wholesale.
Real, is that what it is?
I think so.
So now do you want to go over to the warehouse room or do you want to go to the freeze dry room first? What do you think?
Let's do the warehouse.
Warehouse? Okay, let's go over to the warehouse.
New.
All right, friends, so this is what we're calling the warehouse. This was one of our spare bedrooms in the basement. We have been working our way through the basement. Our house was built in the 1970s and renovating it. So all the exterior walls have all been taken right down to the studs and re-insulated and all of that. This was kind of the last frontier, but we decided since we were going to turn it into a warehouse room, it had this old brown paneling you can see all around. So we decided just to give it a facelift and just paint the whole thing white and put in some new flooring. And then these shelves were shelves that we bought from Costco. We shared these on our Costco haul about 2 months ago, and they have been the best shelves for this purpose. That's what we bought them for, was for creating this storage space. So this has turned into kind of the overflow from the kitchen. A lot of my large appliances, like all my canners over here, my roaster ovens, I have my big pots and pans and bowls and food processors and things like that, all on these shelves, just because I have a fairly small kitchen and it was causing so much clutter up there. So having this stuff down here, just easy to grab, I know exactly where it is, just makes my heart so happy. So one of the other things that we decided to move into this space is these bins here are all the food that I freeze dried over this past summer. Because these bags are opaque, you can't see what's actually in them. But, these aren't labeled. It says 20. No, no. We're just having a laugh here because I opened this up. Everything's labeled except for 2 bags. This looks like your writing, mister.
That is not.
That looks like your writing. It has the year. This one's 2023, but I don't know what's in it. No. There's only 2 bags that are like that. The rest of them are labeled. So we have things in here like marshmallows, we have bananas, we have oatmeal and cauliflower and broccoli, all kinds of ingredients in here. Here I thought I did so good making sure everything was labeled. Oh, so anyway, this bin and both of these are filled to the top with all of the ingredients that I freeze dried. So one thing that I want to do to make this even more organized is print out some labels that list everything that's in these bins and stick them to the front of the bins so that I know exactly what's in there and I don't have to pull them down and rifle through them every time. We have some extra vitamins that we keep down here, and then these bins are all of our medical supplies. So we do live a ways out of town, so keeping a well-stocked medicine kit along with just medical supplies we might need is a really good idea. And then we have our grab and go bag here in case we need to grab it and run outside somewhere if there's an emergency outside. So that's what all this is here. And then we have down on the bottom shelf here, we have all of our animal medical supplies that we need. We do have a farm here, so we raise livestock, so that's what all this stuff is for. This shelf makes me really happy. This is probably my favorite shelf here. So this is all canning lids, canning supplies, Pomona's pectin. These are all things that I use throughout the summer. I can a lot, so keeping a stockpile of things that I need for canning is awesome. Then of course all my canners and all that kind of stuff. I use these roaster ovens for canning as well. My Instapot, my stock pot, all that kind of stuff here. This just makes me really happy. And then the stuff that's over here is all stuff that we moved out of our store pantry in order to be able to move the extra canning we needed in there. So we moved this stuff. It just seemed like an appropriate place to put it in kind of a warehouse type place. So we have light bulbs, paper products like napkins and paper plates. We have Ziploc, tinfoil, and parchment paper in this one. Down where's contacts. So we have contact solution. I think we probably have enough contact solution. We have lots of.
I think it was on sale.
Oh, that's why. Yeah, so that's one of the things that we do is we buy when things are on sale, and we also buy bulk, like I was mentioning. So being able to buy things when they're on sale is a really great way to save money. We have dish soap and scrubbies here. We have pads, and we have Q-tips and tissue down over here. And then down at the bottom, this is Dan down here. So we've talked about this lots of times before when we've done pantry tours. Dan likes his bubbly drinks. This is actually a new one, a kombucha. So I do make kombucha, but I'm not very consistent with it this time of year. It's kind of a summer thing that I make around here. But I really like this. I like the kind of the can. I don't know why.
I get it.
You like it, right?
Yeah,
It's nice. It's a nice can. And the flavor of this kombucha is really good. So that's from Save On Foods. And then of course he has some Zavia back there. And then over here, this is bulk shampoo. This Onika brand I buy from Horizon Distributors here in British Columbia. Horizon Distributors is a bulk distributor, and they distribute to health food stores and grocery stores and things like that. But you can start buying clubs in your town, and we have one here that one of my friends runs. So I have bulk shampoo here, so I just have shampoo jars up in the bathroom that I just fill up as they run out. What else do we have here? We have some toothpaste, some soap. I have learned how to make soap, so I actually have to make another batch. I made a big batch last year, and that lasted us an entire year. This is what's left, so I have to restock that this winter. Okay, so this is kind of stuff that we don't use all the time, but I still want to be able to access fairly easily. So I have grinders up here. This is my apple peeler. We have our Berkey, which we use when we go camping. We have a filtration system for the water at our house, but that's a backup for that. We have my cheese press back here, which gets virtually no use because I'm a terrible cheesemaker, but that's there. Then we have all our vacuum sealer goodies over here. Ice cream maker, my steam juicer, our fry maker here. This is I want to say a spatzel maker. I'm probably saying that wrong, and I deeply apologize for doing that, but this was actually a gift sent to me by a subscriber, and it makes these delicious little pastas. So we have to make that again. That was really good. Then we have, what else do we have down here? We have my tomato machine. Down over here, some laundry soap, cat food. And then last up, we have toilet paper. So we buy our toilet paper bulk from a distributor that distributes to all the hotels. So it is a less expensive way to buy toilet paper, which is fantastic. The first
Sandpaper?
the first time that we bought this, the first few times, the quality of the toilet paper was it felt a little bit like cardboard. But then Dan found this premium one, and it's just a nicer toilet paper. So we have lots of toilet paper up there. And I think that is about it for the warehouse room. So now let's head over to our freeze dryer room. So this room doubles as our freeze dryer room, and where I bag up everything that we freeze dried, and our power room as well. We are installing a solar system, so we have our solar battery system and the inverter and everything all set up in this room, and the power panels for the rest of our house. And this is another room that Dan built for really inexpensively. This is also repurposed fur from the cattle sorting arena and old fences that we've taken down around our property, and I just think it is so incredibly beautiful. And of course, our beautiful freeze dryer, which I love so much. This is a Harvest Right freeze dryer. So this is the freeze dryer that we're going to be giving away, a medium freeze dryer. And like I said, if you want to be first to be notified about when we're going to be opening up the giveaway and how to enter it, you can sign up for my email list. I'm really excited about this. And like I said, we're also giving lots of other awesome prizes away as well. I have my dehydrator here, and I used to use my dehydrator all the time before I got my freeze dryer. And it does an awesome job of drying and preserving food. But now I use it primarily to make my yogurt. I make a batch of yogurt every couple of days, and this has a yogurt setting on it, so that's what I use that for. And then we have our ice maker shoved in back here, a few other odds and ends. And as you can see, all the 5-gallon buckets here, these were the ones that were underneath the shelf over in the canning pantry that we've since moved over here. And Dan and I were just talking today about putting some shelves up along this wall, because one, it's some wasted space, but also it would be nice to be able to store some of the other, like this kind of stuff, the jars of freeze-dried food that I use all the time, on a nice shelf right here. So we'll probably do that this year, or maybe not this year, next year probably, hey? So what are some of the things we have here? Oh no, what is this? Oh, garlic scapes. That's what that is. Oh my goodness, this is getting comical. Okay, so we have garlic scapes. I really should have brought my label maker with me as we went through this tour so that I could label make. So we have garlic scapes here. We have some leeks over here. We have some beautiful squash. Look at how yellow that is. It's the one thing I love about, well, many things I love about freeze-dried food, but the food retains its color so beautifully. We have some pears here. We have a bunch of zucchini, and I just use this to make zucchini bread. It works perfectly. And then up here, we have our very favorite brand of freeze-dried food. So this is NutriStore freeze-dried food. Absolutely love this stuff. So even if a freeze dryer is not in the budget or isn't something that you're interested in doing, if you do want to have freeze-dried food put up for long-term food storage, this is an awesome way to go about doing it. So we've been collecting this over the last year or two. This is for our longer term food storage. A lot of the stuff that I'm freeze drying myself, we're actually just using as we need it. But this is for our long term, and I just love this stuff. We have tried a lot of these, and the flavor is absolutely fantastic. So unlike canning, which does alter the flavor and the nutritional value of the food, freeze drying does not. It alters it just ever so slightly, and also it can store up to 25 years if stored properly. This stuff is done by the professionals, so this stuff is going to last that long. I don't know if the stuff that I'm doing is going to last as long, but I'm planning on using that stuff up anyway. This is more the just in case of emergency, 25-year shelf life, exactly.
Just add water.
Yeah, and the quality of this stuff is fantastic.
And it's really light.
Yeah, that is the thing. It is really light. Those big bins of food that are over there, when you pick them up, it feels like there's nothing in them. They're just super light. So it's really great for transporting if you're a hiker or you're going camping or anything like that. We have a travel trailer, and we've been thinking about doing some longer trips. And but the weight is an issue with the amount of stuff that we bring with us. So being able to bring freeze-dried food with us is just absolutely fantastic. All right, friends, that is the end of the tour for 2024. I am so happy to have been able to share this with you, and thank you for coming along with me all the way from when we planted the first seed in the garden back in the spring till growing the garden throughout the summer, harvesting and doing all of the preserving that we have done. I am so grateful to each and every one of you. And remember, if you want to be notified when we start our big 200,000 giveaway, you can sign up for our email down in the show notes below or in the pinned comment, and you'll be the first to know when that giveaway launches. Again, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you very, very much, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye, everyone.